As you know, the Meat Eater Live Tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.
Hey, I'm Tyler.
And I'm KC.
And you're listening to
The Element Podcast. What is happening, all you woods people? I hope that you are fat and sassy like we talked about last time, because, Tyler, I have gone to seven Thanksgiving feasts, and I feel like it.
You multiply that times 10 pounds.
Yep.
70 pounds you've gained.
I don't think I've gained that much.
No, you definitely
But I have
haven't.
gained some weight, and I don't like it. But it's hard to get out and walk a mile back every day whenever you're eating Thanksgiving every day too. So
I mean, that's the truth. If you got 7 Thanksgivings, you ain't been hunting much. You know what I mean?
I haven't.
Yeah.
Since I got back from Oklahoma, I haven't hunted until tonight. We'll get to that later. But a lot of hunting.
Do people even know you went to Oklahoma?
I hope not. I actually took story stuff, but y'all had simultaneous stuff going on while I was there, I believe. Right?
You saying we had simultaneous stuff going on while you were in Oklahoma? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were in the place that we're about to talk about.
That's right. Man.
It's really tough. I'll tell you this, not to interrupt you, but real quick, it is really tough to help each other when you're in 2 completely different states.
So we got into that. So we'll cover that
was
here in a
struggle.
second. Yes, that was tough. And it's also tough to just keep the timeline in order in your mind whenever November hits. So I hope y'all have been out hunting some. Actually, if you're in a southern latitude, the rut is going pretty good right now. What is going on?
I'm sorry. The reason I had to ask you what you were saying is I couldn't focus because there's a rocket ship taking off downstairs in my house or something.
There's
I don't
something going on. But if you're in a more northern latitude, there's still deer out chasing. Our buddy Alex Comstock over at Whitetail DNA, give him a little shout, man. He killed a good buck this week with some adversity involved. And I think that if we're honest with ourselves as archery hunters, there's adversity a lot more often than what we would like there to be. Mm-hmm. Not very often do they go down in sight unless you're Tyler Jones. So with that, we left off the last time we kind of did a recap. And sorry that we're doing so many recaps, guys. We'll do some topical stuff. There'll be some topical stuff in this. But, man, when you hunt so much, like, you just talk about that and then you just do your learning from experiences, right? And that's why people like podcasts. But you'd killed a giant in Kansas. And then I think we all came back to Texas for a short period of time and then dispersed elsewhere. I went to Oklahoma, which has not gained much publicity because I didn't post too much about it because y'all were elsewhere. Where were you?
Yeah. We were in Colorado, or as you say, Colorado.
Colorado, a lot of times.
Yep.
Colorado, we used to be. And I've since become more
near
cultured.
Eldorado?
Yeah, El Dorado, Texas. That's right. Y'all don't worry about that down there. But we actually, you had been there, not in September, but in October this year. And I don't think we talked about it much at all. But from the guidance of one Michael Hunsucker, you decided that Colorado might be a good place to be in late October, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mentioned that briefly on a podcast. Actually, the one we had Mike on earlier this year, or a couple weeks ago, Rutcast. And I called Mike out, which he he did a lot of podcast promo for us on his personal profile there and Instagram and stuff. And he texted me, it's like, hey, is the podcast released yet? And I was like, yeah, I don't do a very good job of, making everybody post their stuff about it. But anyway, he was like, yeah, send it to me when you get a chance. I sent it to him. It's like, you need me to draw up any promo stuff? He's like, nah, I'll do it. And so he did a way better job than I could have. But he goes, just listen to the first the intro or whatever, I guess. He said, sorry about the bad direction. I was like, dang, he listened. I was thinking he wasn't going to listen. But he, apparently heard me call him out and say I was real mad at him. But
I don't think you were that mad at him.
No, I wasn't. I was mad at Colorado, though, at the time.
Yeah.
I went out there. Eric and I went out there for a few days, and we hunted kind of lots of different places throughout our time there this year. We started in a place that was maybe the most deer habitat looking stuff I've ever seen in my life. It looked so bad to the bone. It was so bad to the bone that we struggled to even get into this stuff. It was so thick. Cattails, what a lot of people call salt cedar, or some call tamarack, or some call willows. Basically,
people call that salt cedar?
I think so. What? Because it hangs around like salinity, I think, for one.
Yeah, it just doesn't.
And it's got like the actual leaves on it look a little more like a cedar than they do a willow.
They really?
Yeah. So anyway, there's several names for it, but people call it whatever the locals call it usually in that spot. But that stuff literally is so thick.
That's what I call it,
so thick.
Yeah.
It was buckbrush, but I didn't see a buck in the brush.
Dust brush.
Dude, one morning, I'm not going to go through the whole recap of October because it was terrible.
Let me tell you an hour-long story about not seeing a deer.
Yeah, dude, you'd be surprised what a guy will do sometimes.
Oh, I know it.
People be like, man, I saw you shot like a giant, but man, I shot this doe. Let me tell you a story about it.
I know it, dude.
And it's all good, it's relative to people, and I try to be, match that excitement. But anyway, this story is not very long, about seeing 4 deer in 4 days, hunting a bunch of public stuff. Me and Eric all up and down, throughout all the stuff we could hunt in Colorado. And one morning we decided to go in, and I'm like thinking there's some pretty good pressure around, actually, quite a bit of pressure. And I think a lot of it's because maybe there wasn't just a ton of public stuff to hunt, but like, even in late October, we go in this morning, and I'm like, man, this could set up pretty well. We saw these trails. We've seen deer. There's ag right here. They cross this. They go over here. We can use the river for access. And we pull in, and we get there in the morning. And, like, we're coming to the very end of this thing, to this road. And I see something. I'm like, that looks like a tail light, like reflecting. And kind of squeezed in through the brush in this road. There's a truck there. It's an SUV. And come to find out, I think it was duck hunters sleeping in their truck. And because they were blasting later that morning. But anyway, we had to change our plans. We went back, got in the river, went to a different spot, crawled through some stuff, went through this place that there should have been deer, dude. I'm telling you, it was awesome. It was not easy to get to. There was good trails coming through this little like open section in the whole willows right there. And we didn't see a deer. And when we worked from the riverbank like 40 yards in, we make fun of this saying a lot, but it was legit hands and knees with a bow crawling under stuff. I was so daggum frustrated. I was sweating my tail off. It wasn't even that hot. It was actually a very, very cold morning. It was like frosty. I was sweating like crazy, dude. It took, to go 40 yards, I bet it took 20 minutes.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's 2 yards a minute. In case you can't do that math. Anyway, it was frustrating, but we finally got through there, set up. I thought it was going to be good. It wasn't. So that's kind of the moment that we decided, let's get out of here, go try something else. We moved, then ended up moving to a place where we went literally over a mile and a half in, legit over a mile and a half in. That's doing a straight line, by the way. And we saw 3 deer that night.
Didn't you see them on the way in too, or something like that?
Yeah, and they came back out after we spooked them. 2, a doe and
Sweet.
2 fawns. One. Actually, we saw 2 on the way in. Saw 3 come out. One was a fawn.
And that was your October.
That was my
Colorado.
October. Yep. So I mean, it's just rough, is what I'm saying. So like, we didn't talk about it. There was no reason to. There was no video that was going to come from it or anything too much. It might add to the story now, but and it is on the podcast certainly. But it was very rough, and I was very kind of disappointed because like last year, you know how Illinois went late October last year, right? And that was something you and I wanted to do. We didn't quite get the weather, and then by the time we did get the weather late October, I was already in Colorado, and it just didn't seem to work good for you.
And it wasn't like the 28th or something like that before.
Yeah, it was late. Yeah, but there was days. I don't think it was quite the 28th, but it was later.
It was late. It was to the point where it's like not enough time to make the turnaround unless you kill the first day kind of thing or whatever. But so y'all know all about kind of our rut hunts and stuff and the deer we killed there, exciting stuff. We come back to reload, visit family, that sort of thing. And pretty much the next Monday we were out again. Didn't you all leave on Monday too?
Yeah, we got back Friday, so we had quick turnaround.
Yeah.
You got back like Wednesday or something.
Wednesday.
So you had 5 days. We had 3 days, quick turnaround. But that's the way it is that time of year, you know what I mean?
Yeah, first 2 weeks in November, you got to get it.
Yeah.
So we did that thing. I headed to Oklahoma. Y'all went to Colorado with a plan.
Yeah. Yep. Our plan was to kill a deer.
It's a good plan. It's a good plan.
That's usually the plan.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's other things involved, but we went, yes. We went with this plan. We were gonna try something different. Actually, what we wanted to do, like I said, we had that one afternoon. We went way back in, saw 3 deer, and I was like, man, this spot is a spot. There's a reason I went in 1.5 miles in late October. We worked our tails off late October this year, and like I felt good about it. Like my mentality was good. I hadn't been sick yet, so I felt good. I worked my tail off, and still I was like I was not disappointed too bad about it. You know what I mean? And so I thought going back in middle of November, I was like, man, this is a spot that should hold deer for sure. So we need to get into this spot and work hard at it. And it's going to be a hard deal because it's like I said, it's 1.5 miles, starting out to get in there. We ended up finding a way to get a little bit closer, but we're still over 1 mile to get in there. Not like super hard walking, but it's still walking with a bunch of stuff, right? And anyway, I'm trying to think. I guess we pretty much made a living in this spot. I don't think we really. Oh, we did the first morning. So when it's such a long trip out there that the first morning we decided we would just hunt from the ground and not try to like go in on something that we hadn't seen and blow this spot, because technically where we'd gone in late October, I wanted to go a little bit further in, a little bit deeper, because I knew that if I got deeper, I'd be closer to bedding.
And that was the place on the ground that you went that was like the Arctic frost type day?
It was not super cold.
I thought y'all were on the ground on that super cold day.
Well, that was a different day. Okay. But the first day we went, it was cold.
Yeah, sure.
It might have even been frosty, but it was one of the most beautiful mornings I've seen, dude. It was, the sun was fire coming up, dude. It was awesome. Right off the bat, saw 3 does. And this is actually the spot that we had a trail camera hung since late October.
Yeah.
And so...
been a couple shooters in there.
Yes, there has.
Yeah, the old Moultrie Mobile worked pretty good from up there in old Colorado.
It did, man. I mean, we learned a lot. Like, it was a good place. I mean, like...
It's a good place for human traffic, too. Like,
exactly.
you could monitor how many dudes are in there.
Yeah.
And what they were doing and all that kind of stuff.
We did. We saw the pressure that was happening during rifle, which is during a primo spot, in the season. And we were able to see guys there because it wasn't super far from the road, and I didn't think I'd get a whole lot of daylight. It was a major scrape and a bunch of scrapes in this area. But we actually did get some daylight of some pretty good bucks. Especially, like the biggest buck that we got on the trail camera is a daylight picture of him. So, and it's literally 80 yards off the road max. It's like close. So that the Moultrie Mobile app worked really well during with that hang, and it helped me to make some decisions as well, which played in, like I said, helped me make decisions and played into this whole thing here in November, because basically I was able to look at that app and go, man, the last week has been pretty slow. Haven't seen any bucks at this scrape. And it kind of makes you think okay, something's changed. And it's not necessarily the spot, I don't think. It's more the time of the rut and what's going on than the time of the year. And maybe there is pressure involved, hunter pressure. But like either way, I didn't feel super confident about this area. It's a little bit more accessible than what I was going to. And so it really did develop, like it helped us develop our entire game plan to this other spot that's really far in. And so that's where, after that first morning, we started making a living back here in this spot. And basically, we were able throughout the trip to really narrow in on the deer that were using that area, small area back there, and figure out, like, the main thing we had to do was figure out which tree we needed to get in to get a shot.
Did you play it conservative off the get-go? Because I know you kind of tree hopped kind of day to day. The first place, did you go in thinking that was the killing spot, or did you think that you were going to set up in a spot that you knew you could kill, but also see, like that kind of set?
Yeah. I'm trying to think what we did that first afternoon.
You set further away from the south boundary.
The first afternoon?
Well, the first time you went in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the first afternoon or what it was. But
See, the first time we went in there was we went in the morning. We were thinking we were going to have to.
What did you do that evening?
I don't know what I did the first evening. I can't remember if. We hunted from the ground on the same track that had the camera on it, and saw a few does and stuff, and one looked decent little 8-point from the ground. Didn't feel super great about it. It was still kind of warm, and we weren't seeing. We were on the edge of the thick stuff, but there was a bunch of CRP and then like crops. And I thought they'd work through that CRP a little earlier, but I just don't know if bucks are coming out into that CRP before dark, really. So didn't love it. The next morning we decided, okay, we're going to have to walk past some fields that may have deer in them. So I thought, well, let's just wait until right at daylight. So we got out there, we sat until like we could see the fields just barely, and we started walking. It was a long ways, and we're able to see that there aren't deer in the fields. We're going to go in there and set up as soon as we can without busting the fields out. Well, we go in and we sit in a tree, and it feels good. But like as soon as we get in there, we're going to sit in all day too. It's the first all day I've set maybe in 2 years. I don't remember if I set one last year or not.
First all day ever in a saddle.
Yeah. Which was really fine in a cruiser. I mean, like.
Yeah. You really didn't mind it too much?
No, I mean, I was comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we did get down and move in the middle of the day, like 100 yards.
Yeah.
But, I mean, other than that move, we were in a saddle all day.
Yeah.
And, like I said, in a cruiser, man, that's the most comfortable saddle I've put on. I haven't tried just all of them or nothing, but it was plenty comfortable to do it all day.
Yeah.
And so, but we sat in the tree we sat in that morning. As soon as we kind of get up there, a few minutes later, I look over and I'm like, hey, Eric, there's a buck right there by the creek.
That's fast.
Yeah. I mean, it was quick. And it was just like a big old thick neck and a head, backlit by the sun, right on the other side of the creek where it's private. But like my thoughts were, if I was looking at the map, I found a crossing. I was using Onyx a ton on this. Once again, one of those things where like in Kansas, I mean, and here, so handy to have Onyx. You and I talk about it all the time. We've been using it for years, and it is literally the thing that we use every day, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I was looking on Onyx, and I could find some trails kind of going through this creek system, right? And I find like a spot that looks like cattle trails coming up, and I'm like, that's the crossing. That's the main crossing on this place. So I think, okay, if I sit on this wind, I'm supposed to have a northeast, I believe, and so I'm sitting on the west side of that crossing in a tree that's fairly close to the creek. Come to find out, I'm like I'm north of the fence line. Creek's south of the fence line. I look at my map later on and realize that the public actually goes all the way to the creek, right? So I didn't have to be on that side of the fence, but I was for that morning. It was actually a really good spot. I didn't realize how good of a tree it would end up being until a few days later. But I see this buck, and our wind's blowing. Of course, it's a northwest instead of a northeast. I don't think the cameraman got the wind right one time while we were out there.
Cameraman probably didn't. Neither did the weatherman.
The cameraman definitely didn't get the weather right.
Not his job, though.
No, it's not. But neither apparently is it for the weatherman because I mean, he has a job. He just doesn't do it very well.
That's right.
So, dadgummit, I'm an idiot.
It's okay, Eric. We're not actually being mean to you. I promise.
So, the cameraman loves to play tricks on me about the weather. I'll be sitting there prepping for the next day. He'll tell me it's the southwest. I'll be like thinking, okay, it's the southwest. I'll be prepping. I'll get this spot in my mind. I go back and check the weather later on. It's like northeast. I'm like, bro. He's like, I don't know. It said southwest earlier. You know? But anyway, so this buck gets my wind. Long story short, and at the same time, there's actually a road that's not far from this guy. And a truck comes down it. It's kind of a remote deal, but like a truck comes down it, and between him already smelling us and that truck coming by, he kind of freaks out and kind of runs through. Like, I don't know. Our wind was not blowing directly at him, but I can almost guarantee you by the way he was acting, he was picking up something down there swirling. You know, as your wind goes further downwind, it gets wider, right? So he was smelling us.
Line.
That's right.
Yeah.
So he was smelling us, and he got our wind, but like he was walking towards the heart of our wind, and then this truck comes by and he freaks out and goes through our wind. So I was like, maybe he won't be that bumped, possibly, you know. Which I think this may be the same deer that we encountered a few days later in the same spot. So if that is the case, which I'll have to go back and look at the footage to see and match that up, then that would be true that the truck actually helped us in that instance, which was kind of cool and weird at the same time. So anyway, we saw him right off the bat when we got set in the stand, and then the rest of the day until prime time, we didn't see nothing. So all day on November 16th, 15th.
That's a pretty hard sit, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're from the the heartland part of the Midwest, you're thinking, okay, yeah, that's lockdown, whatever. But once you get more western, man, there's literally from November 1st to who knows when, all the phases of the rut are happening in some sense, right? Like, we've been in Kansas plenty of times and seen the lockdown, quote, activity at weird times, right? Yeah. So, you know, anytime you should be seeing deer crews.
Dude, it's Colorado. It's open. Like,
you can
I should be able to see them. That's
yes.
right. I should have at least been able, even if they're locked down, we should be able to see them, you know? Didn't see nothing, dude. And so, like, I'm like, this is why I don't sit these all-day sits. You know, I was, like, mad, you know.
I didn't even talk you into this one.
No.
You came up with it on your own.
I did. I came up with this idea because it's so far in, and I thought, well, if we're going to go in late in the morning, we might as well just stay all day, you know, instead of try to come out and go back in. Shorter day this time of year. And we didn't see nothing until late. But then we ended up seeing almost killing, like, I don't know. This deer was young. But he was a good 10. Like, he's like maybe like 135-inch 10.
Is there footage of that deer?
Yeah.
I don't remember this part of the story.
He's big. So he was like 70 yards.
While all this is going on, I'm in Oklahoma hunting, not having quite as much event. Well, I had a couple good days. I saw some deer. I actually had a shooter at 15 yards and just couldn't get the shot off. It was so dead calm. We're getting to that day with y'all, too, so I guess we'll hold. I don't really have to tell too much of that. But he's at 15 yards, so calm, I couldn't even move the camera. To get it on him. It was that bad. But that would be the Thursday. I guess you're kind of on Wednesday of the story right now, I think, right?
Yeah, probably about there. So I guess it would be Wednesday. So then that deer, I don't know, like his does, he would have been good, but he went in, he was cruising, and I think he was going to work right to us, man, and we were about to kill this deer. And he kind of turned and went into some brush like 150 yards from us. And then next time I saw him, he was going back out, kind of getting closer to us. I thought he was going to come right down the fence line at us. We had switched trees at this point. And next thing I know, he kind of turns and goes diagonal, like almost perpendicular to us. And I'm like, I see does, and I'm like, oh, he's with does. And they're going to, like, our wind's blowing straight out of the north, and they're southeast of us, heading to the west. And I'm like, well, bad news. Long story short, they get our wind. I think the buck even got our wind, and they all got weird at like 70 yards.
You had wind issues out there.
Yes. Yeah, they were. it was not where it should have been lots of times. Like what we would get. I mean, we literally at one point we had a full day lined up of northeast, I believe it was, and we had northwests almost the whole time.
Yeah. You think that's like just more of that arid country type thing where you have high fluctuations of temperatures from, night to daytime. So that means there's a lot of air moving around. And then there's like...
Could be. Also, you have the Rockies to the west not far.
Yeah, kind of making things weird.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, maybe where you're at there, like the predominant wind is a northeast for the day, but in your pocket, because you're in like a depression or something, cold air, like thermals are constantly a thing there.
I thought about that, but even when I'd get out on some higher stuff, you know, just I don't know, man. The wind was tough for sure, and I mean, that's kind of the issue with that spot. One of the spots is like you're walking over a mile in, you can't just go in there and throw a milkweed out and then change your mind all of a sudden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you got to figure something out while you're in there, or just you go in early and you do change your mind and you work your tail off. You know, that's what would. Those are kind of the only options. You know, but like I get a northeast all day. I'm kind of like, man, that should be what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's not shifting around, and it's probably not light either, right?
No, there wasn't a ton of light winds out there.
You know, I think to put a little tactic to it, like anything under 8, you can kind of probably assume a little bit more of a shift
fluctuation.
Yeah, you could get some gusts out of the northwest when it's northeastward. But if you have over 8, if you get in those 10, 12s, 15s, you kind of would think that it's going to be pretty on the flag.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. Normally. Yeah, but it wasn't. Got winded. Ended the night. I'm probably missing some details. I wish Eric was here to kind of help out. We wanted him to be, but he went home for Thanksgiving. So,
what a selfish guy.
Yeah, all his family. He wanted them to see him.
Yeah.
No, but he and I are going to go out soon. Here again, traveling around. So
I hope y'all go do some killing and then get him back so he can go with me.
I hope so too, man. He ought to be back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the next day, I'm trying to think what happened.
That's the Thursday, the coldest day of the trip.
Yes. It was 8 degrees that morning. Wind chill of 0 or 1, something like that.
Y'all saw a frost plant.
Yeah. It was weird. It was a really cool morning.
Yeah.
But also at the same time not fun because
what's cooler than cool?
Ice cold.
Ice cold.
So what I decided was, I said, man, I'm going to get up early and we're going to drive almost an hour to a spot and I'm just going to, since I feel like I kind of blew some stuff out of there, like I'm going to give it a rest for a morning and we're just going to go see this stuff. Because sometimes like you go to a new state, it's good to see something because if you didn't realize what you're missing out on, then you might find something that's worth going back every year for. You know what I mean? And so we're going to take a chance, go look at some stuff, some different public, and hunt a spot. And this spot was kind of a flat, low area that had like some trees on the map you could see. Didn't know if they were going to be big enough. I thought there might be 1 or 2 in there. It looks decent. Get in there, could not get hung. I think it had been burned or gotten burned on accident or something. And some of the bigger trees were just dead or whatever, Man. And so it was tough,
It's frustrating. Like, I don't mind going in and hunting on the ground, especially not after the November we've had. But when you go in with all the stuff to hang in a tree and then say, we're just going to ground hunt instead, it's like, dadgummit, I carried 20 pounds for no reason.
My mentality struggled that morning.
Yeah.
And we came in, I knew it could be marshy, right? And I came in just dead nuts, nailed it in the night, dude. It was like the way I was supposed to go in the morning, right? And so we get in there and we do sit on the ground. Didn't feel good about it. It was the same morning you're talking about where it was ice cold and dead calm. There wasn't any wind at all. And we're sitting there, I see a doe. I get kind of antsy, like it says 8 degrees is so cold, and ends up I'm just like pretty early, I'm like, I'm done with this. This doe has come from the ag that we thought was going to happen. I got another funny story that happens on this day. Anyway, we get up, we kind of scout our way out. I'm like, man, there's a bunch of sign in here, but the habitat is so isolated. It's like, you would have to be in there on the day that the buck ends up being there right before it gets light. You know what I mean? He just happens to be there in the rut following some does in or something. Like, I don't feel like a buck is in there every day. You know what I mean? So, didn't feel great about it, and it's kind of out of the way and everything. So we go driving. But when we were sitting there that morning, I was like hearing pheasants like crazy, dude. And like, I was like, dude, I've never heard this many pheasants. I was like, we got to go. They're not far from public. I'm looking at the map, stuff like, we got to keep that in mind. So we go looking at these different places for deer and stuff like that, and we have to come back through. And I'm like, man, I got a shotgun in the truck. We should try to shoot pheasant, you know? So I start looking, and I'm like, that place we heard on them pheasants this morning, that was like real close to public. Let's go check that out. They might have been feeding this wheat field right here and gone over here. You know, I'm like making this plan. I'm like, this could be real good. And there's a bunch of grass in there. So I'm like, they got to be pheasants in there. So we start driving around. We get real close. I'm looking at the map, and we pull up to the stop sign, and here it goes, hey, look at that. And I look over, and there are hundreds of pheasants standing on chicken houses in a pen some outfitter had. All of them just sitting there. They were going nuts when we were out there this morning, you know, and I was like, dadgummit, I got played so hard, man.
Preserve birds got you.
They got me, dude. They were all roosters, too, I think. But anyway, so we did that. We went and did our deal, and we wasted gas, money, and energy getting up early, you know.
Energy's probably the worst of the three, to tell you the truth.
It's probably the truth. So we end up working our way back, and that evening had a pretty eventful hunt, I believe it was, where I got on the ground, tried to get Eric to rattle to me, had him... had some signs worked out that were very difficult to see in that tree that he was in, which is a good thing because, I mean, you don't want to be seen, right, in the tree.
Yeah.
So, but there was some miscommunication between what all was going on. I think, long story short, I bet the buck that we were trying to kill that I had found that was bedded down there, I'm pretty sure he had come across and didn't come across right in front of me, and kind of went down the creek a little bit and then came across. I never saw him because I was low on the ground, and Eric lost him when he got into some thick stuff and then never picked him out. But I got back to the tree. Right after,
cinnamon.
Right after the sun went down, and I was going to sit the last part, you know, before all the deer came out, have my wind good and everything. And as soon as I'm like halfway up, I see the deer. He's walking away. He had no clue. It was really windy that day, so he didn't see me walk back. He didn't see me going up the tree. He's walking away like 70 yards, and he disappears before I can even get, hey, there's a buck, like walking out of my mouth, you know. So anyway, big buck, like big, heavy 10. We got footage of him. I think he had some broken tines. I know for sure one G3 was broken. And I was disappointed, but I also thought, well, that's a good sign. Like, there's deer in here. They're moving around stuff. I'd also seen a buck when I was on the ground that came across the creek at 50 yards from me. So there's footage of a lot of this, you know. So this will all be a video series that comes out. So, you know, if you're interested in more commentary when the video comes out, you can go back and listen to this podcast. But the next morning, so that night we had decided, because of the night before, some of the movement I had seen, like after that 10-point busted us, I decided on a different tree. And when we went in that afternoon, we spent 15 to 20 minutes picking out the right tree. I knew the area because I knew where the trails were. And there was 3 trees we could get into. 2 were really bushy and small. 1 was big and fairly tall. And we got in the tall one, even though it was kind of open. And it was also the farthest shot. Like the closest shot was going to probably be around 45 if I was shooting where all the deer I expected to be were. But I did know there was trails on the north side of me that were like 30 max. So anyway, sat there, had that hunt, and then the next morning we leave all our stuff in. dude, I don't think I've done that one time this year. Leave my stuff in a place and come back to it.
I think I did that for the first time tonight at my own property. Been planning on getting it in the morning.
Fun. And like, seriously though, like one of the best feelings when you're like, oh, I'm just going to go back in there in the morning. It works out, you know, because it just never works out. The wind's changing or whatever, you know. And so had a different wind, but it was still, I think, going to be a good wind for us in the morning. And so we have, this is crazy. We go back in the next morning. We get in there. It's a lot quieter. The wind has calmed down. We get in fairly quiet and in good shape. It's you know, early. I wouldn't say plenty early, but it is early. It's just barely getting light. It's like an hour before official sunrise. And we're sitting there. It's fairly calm, and nothing happens. Like, don't see any deer I saw one doe like 400 yards off. If I hadn't been glassing, I would not have even come close to seeing her.
How often do you see deer as soon as you can see?
It depends on where I'm at, but not often.
I feel like not often either.
But also being on public, you get to hunt back in bedding a lot more. If you're hunting like a small private piece and you're hunting a feeder in Texas, like it happens a lot right at first
I feel
light.
like on public in Texas, especially post time change, 8:30 is a really good time. Like that's whenever I see a lot of deer. But I think you're right. Like if you were hunting a feeder or something like that, maybe
just some ag field or whatever. Yeah. It's going to be pretty close there. But anyway, so nothing happens. See that doe just briefly going away, and we sit there for like till it's plenty good and light, and this buck appears like 70 yards where the one left the day before, and I'm like, oh. I look at him. He has one big long main beam with no tines on it.
Oh, man.
And his other side is literally busted off at the pedicle. Like, you can't even, there's not anything sticking up above his fur. And this
Not
dude
good.
is just, he's like, I'm sitting there telling Eric, I'm like, dude, this is a shooter if he has just even most of his rack. You know what I mean? Like, this is a 3-4-year-old fighter right here, just probably 4, just big old thick body and everything. And I was so disappointed. And I mean, of course, I could be like, well, I shot a mature buck and I could shoot him. And some guys would do that, or some at least say they would do that. But I just didn't want to shoot a deer after seeing some of the deer I'd seen that had one big old spike hanging out of his head that was 20 inches long or whatever. So I didn't. And he works down the 45-yard trail. And works through slow, man. Kind of works some scrapes and stuff. I don't know how much of that Eric got, but he got footage of this deer quite a bit. And he comes around, and the wind is blowing. He's on the south side of me. Wind's blowing from the southwest. And he comes around to my east, and he comes to the fence line. We're sitting right on the fence line. And he gets to the fence line on the east, and he, lifts his head up like he's about to jump. I'm like, he's about to go over, kind of like film that, or whatever. And he lifts his head up, and then he just puts it right back down and turns his head back to the east and goes alert. And I'm like, it's weird. Yeah. And he goes alert long enough that I'm like, I think there's another deer back there, And like I said, the wind is blowing. It's blowing north of him, and it's in a pretty safe spot right now, right? I don't know at what point. I don't know if it's actually blowing there when he's at the fence. I guess I would assume it's not actually. Because as he starts heading north to jump the fence, the wind literally comes from the exact opposite direction. Comes from the northeast. It was blowing southwest. Supposed to blow southwest all morning. Blows from the northeast. Wildest thing I've ever seen. And so he comes over, and I'm like, dang it, we're safe right now. No matter what happens, if he'll jump and go, he'll be out of our lives before the wind changes, right? So he doesn't jump. He sees that deer. And then he starts walking over kind of fast. And I'm like, is he going to chase some does off or something? And he gets 15 yards over there and looks back in there again, down the fence line. And he just turns dark like a chameleon. And I tell Eric, he's bristled up, dude.
Puffed.
Yeah. And he sits there bristling. I'm like, there's another buck in there, And so we're sitting there, we're kind of watching. Eric turns the camera back on me, and then also I'm like, hey, they're coming, dude. And I see them coming down the fence line right at us, dude. I'm talking, our tree is on the fence line. Like, they're barbed wire the barbed wire is on our tree, right? It's like used as a fence post, and they're coming right down the fence. At this point, they're both on the north side of the fence, coming down the fence line. I'm like, they're coming right there, dude. Get on them. He gets on them as soon as he can, and the single horn buck is pushing the other buck that he had seen. And I'd see I don't know, it's a 2 or 3 year old buck. I don't know. At the time, I was like, that's a big old, framed buck. He's kind of thin, but I was like, as soon as I saw him, I said, I'm shooting that deer, Eric. Just, the one in the front, that is. Like I made sure he knew.
Full rack.
Not the one that we just passed,
Yeah.
And the full rack, which he's kind of busted up too. But he comes right down the fence, and I'm like, at this point, I'm like getting ready to draw, and I'm not sure if he's going to come directly under us and I'm going to have to shoot him going away or what. And he kind of he gets 10 yards and then breaks off to the northwest. Mind you, the wind is still out of the northeast, perfect for us. And he heads up to the northwest, and at 15 yards, he opens up. I said, "You got him?" He's like, "Yeah." And I put it on him. He went 50 yards before I saw him just pretty much nosedive. And it was over quick.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. We didn't see a ton of deer in our 2 trips up there, but it was enough that I would go back someday. I don't know if it'll be next year or not, but I definitely would go back and hunt and enjoy that hunt. I enjoyed that hunt a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
I will say that. It was a lot of work, but it was, and we had some friends up there that helped us, tremendously, fed us a lot, man. And that's a big deal for energy, man. Just being able to walk all that distance with full stomachs, and eating every night real good, that was very nice. So
I bet.
If they're listening, kudos to them.
Yeah, that's you and I have talked about Colorado quite a bit, hunting deer out there, and I kind of thought that this would be kind of more along that experiential type hunt, you know, and sounds like it was.
It was fun, dude. There was waterfowl everywhere. It was fun, man. Just saw pheasants, we saw waterfowl, we saw, quail, and just the mornings were beautiful. Just hearing all the wildlife, man. And I don't know. It was decent weather, it was cold a couple of days, but it was pretty decent weather in the middle of the day. And just when I shot my deer, man, it got up to 60 or 65 that day. I'm pulling them out and with a t-shirt on, and actually sweating on the way out because, it doesn't matter that time of year. But
yeah,
when you're doing that kind of stuff, But
and the deer cart held up again.
It did, man.
Got one more out.
But it was really a blast, and I was really excited to take a deer home, man. Expensive tag. I did want to fill it,
Yeah.
And I got a good buck out of it.
Yeah.
So he wasn't the Kansas buck, but
not many are.
No, that's the thing, man. It's if you want to shoot something that big every year, you're probably gonna eat a lot of tags, man. And I like shooting deer.
Me too.
It is fun.
I ain't shot enough 140s to pass any of them.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Or 120s in most places, Some states you treat a little different than others, but overall, shooting deer's fun.
Yeah, dude. Oh, we had a blast, dude. We were shaking so bad after we shot that deer, dude. So much fun. And, that was the last day we were going to hunt. So we got to shoot one in the morning instead of the evening. And things are so much nicer when you shoot deer in the morning.
Gummit, they are.
And so, just getting for footage purposes and for just being able to go through totes and find knives and all, paper towels and water and all the stuff that you need to do before it gets midnight or whatever. It's just so nice. And so we are, pretty much ready to go home by, 2 p.m. that day or whatever. It was nice, man.
Yeah. Y'all rolled on out, man.
Yep.
Got you some pizza for as a celebration.
Yep, we did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, had to get no tomatoes, and they messed up my pizza because of it. So, Eric, next time we're going tomatoes, you can just pick them off.
I felt like the interview process included a not being picky eater.
It will from now on. It will from now on.
The Eric rule.
Yeah. He's pretty good at trying stuff, really.
He is.
But he still just doesn't like vegetables that
Ate
much.
an avocado for the first time at your house the other day.
Yep, and a sushi.
Yep. Oh, man.
Yeah. And cream cheese.
Cream cheese. Yep.
Cream cheese.
How about that? When you go down the list of just what have you not eaten?
Yep.
Get this. Oh, popcorn.
Red beans.
That's right. White rice. Wow.
Oh, man.
No, Eric's been such an asset this year, man.
Oh, man.
And,
blessing for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad that we get to work with that dude. I'm ready for him to come back home.
Yeah.
You know, to Texas.
Back home. That's right.
Yep. But so from here on out, we have a couple exciting hunts. Well, I'll talk about kind of what I did tonight right quick a little bit. I hunted in East Texas, and this is more of a don't be a bonehead type deal like I am. But I hunted my own property, and this is the second hunt I have had out there. The first one I hunted with Eric, I think, I had to be somewhere early, so I just stayed at home when we hunted there, and then went to public that evening. But same
Probably a Thanksgiving.
Yeah, probably. It's actually my mother-in-law's retirement, so might as well show up for that since she's going to be the future babysitter and allow me a lot more freedom. So that's good.
Yep.
So anyways, tonight we had a Thanksgiving midday, so I came home, had literally an hour of daylight once I'd got my platform set on my cruiser, left. So just quick hunt. And I'm thinking, whatever. You know how this is, right? Like when you do what we do, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to go get some quiet time in the tree stand. I'm hunting, right? But I'm also going to be able to get on my phone, answer some emails, do some stuff, right? And I did a little bit of that stuff. But pretty early, I had some does come in. And dadgummit, dude, people don't understand. Like, it's not that East Texas does are smart. It's that they're scatterbrained. There's no way this doe smelled me, heard me, or saw me, but she got weird at like 30 yards upwind, and they left. And it's just like, what is going on? And that's the weird thing about corn.
Well,
like,
I was going to ask you also, is that like, do you think that has to do with deer that are a little more residential?
I don't know.
Do they freak out because they're always like getting busted by people?
Maybe. I think I thought about a lot of factors like that. There was also a cat running around.
I hate cats.
Me too. And I wonder if she saw that cat and got weird. Or there's been some wild dogs on my property again, and I wonder if they're jumpy because of that. Or I think that they're getting molested by some bucks right now. And I wonder if they were weird about, just kind of on edge because they've just been messed with all day. Because those does left, and I thought that it was over after that. It's like, 20 minutes left to shooting light at this point. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I actually had a saw in my pocket because I was going to trim some limbs in this tree. On my private property, guys. I'll cut it down if I want to, dadgummit. And end up not doing that because I couldn't reach them safely. And so I was like, I'm going to put this back in my pack and kind of cinch it down real good. So I bent over, kind of was messing with that thing. And then I'm not being careful, right? I'm not doing jumping jacks in the stand, but I'm just kind of messing with my pack. And I just stand or kind of lean up and look over and there's a buck at 60 yards.
Worst feeling ever, dude. I do it all the time.
The worst.
You just whip your head around and you're like, you're not caring, and then all of a sudden it's like, you're staring right at me.
Well, the funny thing was he wasn't looking at me. So I was kind of excited. I was like, oh, shoot. He might be fixing to come over and eat this corn. I'm going to shoot this guy. Because I get a pretty good look at him. I think he's on camera, but I'm not sure. But he's a 9-point, and he's like 15, 16 wide. With tall tines. Good deer for where I live. Yep. I don't have year-to-year deer. I never have yet, at least. So I'm like, first decent shooter, I'm shooting it. I would love to kill a deer on my own property.
Yep.
So I ain't gonna pass too much yet.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, this could go good. I'm kind of like, turn the GoPro on. I think or do some stuff. Kind of getting ready, get the footage of him, and then I'll look over to the right. Oh, no. There's a doe at 50 who is locked on to me. That's who I should have actually been aware of the whole time. Because she had her eyes on me, for probably 10 minutes that I didn't even know. And that's the doe he was shadowing. And I don't have a clue where they came from, don't know where they came out or anything, right? So it's just like, well, I guess I'll just stand here like the Statue of Liberty until something happens. And that doe kind of like, she's weird. She takes her eyes off of me. So I'm like, oh, there's a chance, And then she like steps out and looks at me again. And when they do the like double take thing like that, it's like, she ain't going to ever calm down.
No.
Not East Texas does. Midwest does, maybe so.
Yeah.
Also in the Midwest, you could just shoot her and be done with it, Now, for some reason, biologically, you can't shoot does after a certain point in the season, like it just is not right. Yeah. But whatever.
You better shoot at their knee in East Texas if they're on that.
If that doe's at 45, you better shoot at the doe beside her. But anyways, she ends up getting kind of bumped by him and bounds off, and they just pretty much rut rage their way out of my life. So that was fun. And I think just the lesson dude, this is late November 2021. I'm still learning lessons about deer hunting.
Good.
We talked about it the other night. Like I learned the lesson about not a hard lesson, but just observing deer when they jump a fence. They don't land on the other side of the fence. They land 5-7 yards beyond the fence. And it's something I kind of learned while we were up in Kansas. And then, this.
So you're saying, just to clarify for the listener, if you're hunting a fence crossing, make sure you can shoot like 5 or 7 yards from the fence, not right where the deer would actually land when it jumped the fence, because it's going to use momentum. It's going to use that carried momentum before it stops.
Yeah, I think the common mistake would be you see that matted down spot on the ground right there where they jump over all the time. Well, can you shoot to that? It doesn't matter if you can shoot to that.
Yeah.
They're going to go out, bounce a few times, because it's the same thing as like, is it easier to just jump down flat-footed, or is it easier to like kind of jump and take a couple hops or whatever, off of a rock or something like that? It's the
you don't run a 40-yard sprint and stop at 41.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That would be very detrimental to your health.
Your hamstrings.
And in that, it's just the lesson. It's just, if you're going to hunt, do it 100%. Don't just be kind of lazy about it or whatever. And, I'm not heartbroken over it. It wasn't a boon or anything, but he's a good buck. I sent you a picture of him. I've been happy to shoot him, and it's not like he's busted
good
for forever. He's pretty big.
I know, dude. When I saw him, I was like, dang, that's not just like a typical basket.
No, he's good, and I got some good footage of him. I mean, he's standing still for 10 minutes, so,
You're thinking, man, this is going to be an awesome pre-roll. This doe's just looking at you the whole time.
I figured there was a doe around. I just didn't think that's how she would be. But
sometimes, dude, when you film too, there's like this whole sense of awareness that goes away when you think, I need to be getting shots. You're like, you're trying to get shots, and then you just are not aware that anything else could be going on other than the deer you're filming. Sometimes that's a difficult thing for sure to overcome.
It is, man. It is.
How'd your Oklahoma stuff go? Did we talk about that much?
No, we didn't talk about it too much. I actually probably do a story recap this week sometime, possibly, just like kind of condense it all into one day. But I went to Oklahoma, and I didn't struggle, but I had to work for it, and saw some deer, had some intel from our buddy Hunter that was
misleading at best.
Interesting. Interesting. I feel as if maybe we actually speak a different language and I don't realize it. He speaks inverse English.
Well, it's Rains County versus Hopkins County.
That's it. But pretty much anything he had learned didn't apply for whenever I was there. And I don't know, it very well could have been moon phase stuff and phases of the
Moon
rut.
wasn't good, was it?
No, it wasn't. Moon was tough.
So that's one thing I guess I forgot to mention in Colorado.
Yeah.
Also, we started going in the morning, so we just went through and to that spot. We figured out that we didn't think deer were really doing much feeding in fields that we were going to be passing by.
Yeah.
And so we just started going in time to get there,
That whole week, mornings were like the time that I saw deer. I don't think I saw a deer from the tree in an evening on a 5-day trip.
Wow.
Yeah. So evenings, I ended up coming home after the 5th morning because it's like, well, evenings have been terrible. My wife wants me home. I go home, It was actually my anniversary, so, might as well show up at 11 p.m. on your anniversary.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice thing to do.
Yep.
But, I was seeing some bucks. I almost had a shot at a really nice, actually, he would be probably comparable to the deer that's going to release from Kansas. Is that Sunday?
Deers?
Huh?
Are you talking about footage of a deer?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think which one that is. Yeah,
The
I'm trying to release.
buck.
Yeah, Sunday. Yeah.
Sunday.
I'm
Okay,
trying to
so
release it Sunday.
that's the 20-something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever the Sunday after Thanksgiving is, that's whenever that's going to release.
28th.
So the 28th?
Yep.
So that'll release on the 28th of November, but kind of comparable to that. Maybe a little bit more tines, wasn't quite as busted, but had it there at 15 yards, gunning him in, and just couldn't get a shot. And long story short, I kind of fell in love with a very small area because I was seeing deer, and there was some great scrapes there. And after like hunting it and looking at the map for a very long time, on the way home I decided it actually was great for deer sightings and great for sign, but actually the hardest place to kill them like on this creek system because the creek got real snaky and you couldn't predict movement. If I was on the north or south end of those scrapes hunting an east or west wind, I felt like I could have killed. And probably go back and try to do that. I'm going to try to line it up with a better moon phase. I mean, I've never, truthfully, maybe I'm just getting better at this. Not good, but better. I've never been able to see, like, oh, the moon is affecting this. And I feel like I could.
Yeah.
Because it was, like, full moon and was not seeing any deer in the evenings on cool evenings, you know, in mid-November. Should be seeing deer, right?
Should.
So that's all I can figure. I mean, the last morning I went in there and I bumped a deer in the moonlight. I mean, I was there good and early, you know, and I was walking in. I was going to have my stand hung about like when you and Eric talked about, you know, just an hour before daylight and no headlamp because the moon's so bright and I bumped a buck. So, I don't know. It's a fun hunt. I like it. Yeah.
Call those funts.
Yeah, that's it. So, we've got a...
Have you seen the... last time we had a presidential election, I think it was SNL did a skit where they were doing like all the Democratic, where they all
the primaries
debate or whatever, primary debate or whatever, and they were doing one of our vice president because she was running at the time or whatever. And
she got so many votes, didn't she?
Yeah. She goes, I like to think of myself as the fun ant or funt. It's just so funny. And I always think when you say something like where I can say funt out of fun hunting or something like that, I'm like, yeah, it reminds me of the fun ant.
So we are going to do some more funting here pretty soon.
Yep.
I'm going to go back to Oklahoma. You're going to go somewhere else. Been doing some map scouting on the annex. Been getting after it. And still going to try to kill some deer, guys. I like don't have that downhill feeling yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll be honest. I had it after Colorado.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I think was it 2016 you killed your elk and you're like, man, I'm just good for the year.
Yep.
You know, and then a few days later you're like, there's a cold front coming in. I ain't been in the woods in like a week, you know. I need to go. You just get that itch, man. Your neck starts to swell and you know, pee starts to get hot and everything else.
Yep. That's right. So there's still a lot of hunting to do. And I don't know, man. The more hunting I do, the more I realize that like it's almost like this rut thing is more hype than it is like the hard rut dates, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, dude, you killed a buck that was rut raging December 28th last year, right? Mm-hmm. But you see people right now who are killing deer like crazy, chasing does still. Like,
we got pictures of a deer on Texas Pub, giant, with his nose in places it shouldn't be on February 22nd or something like that.
In the daylight. Man.
Yeah.
Like good in daylight. It's like 10 a.m. or something that day. So, not that you can hunt him that day. But
no,
you know, it's still going. So like y'all don't feel like you've missed it or whatever. I know a lot of states are getting some gun hunting done. So if you're doing some of that, good for you. Yeah, some gunting. In Texas, there's not a ton of public opportunity for gun hunting. There's a few, and I've seen some guys kill some good deer. Yeah, especially on the national forest stuff, man. Mm-hmm. But hope y'all are having fun with that. If you need some Christmas gifts and you just don't know what to get people, man, let me tell you something. The elementwild.com has got some stuff for you.
Man, this hoodie right here I'm looking at.
Ooh, look at that.
It's got Pokemon shreds all over it. This is the Element hoodie in Coyote Brown.
You might get a holographic Charizard with your
That's
Element
right,
hoodie.
man.
You just never know.
I had 5 kiddos in my house over Thanksgiving, and there was some Pokemon cards hanging out up here.
Isn't this wild, dude?
Yeah.
20 years ago, I was doing that stuff.
Wild.
Yeah.
I never got into it.
22 years ago. Been kind of uncool if I was 13 doing it, but 11, it was fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But anyways, things are about to be
one
popping.
thing I wanted to mention real quick also, I think I mentioned this in the last podcast, but that Colorado deer, I shot him with a Vector ZMR. I don't think they're available yet, but they hope to be soon.
Oh, yeah. Hope to be soon.
Is that coming like soon? Real soon?
It's going to be 2022 release.
Okay.
But it's coming soon.
Yeah.
And you're shooting them.
Yeah.
But go ahead with what you're saying.
Well, so I was just going to say, and I said this in the last podcast, but I just want to reiterate because it just feels right. But like, I shot the deer with a giant mechanical front deploy. Like, you're going to lose some momentum, right? But the reason I shoot, that's the reason I shoot a heavier arrow. It makes sense. I'll say this. I've been doing some like polling and just kind of funny stuff, pricking at people or whatever on Instagram.
I continued on with your Morpheus thing.
I liked
it's
it.
Good stuff, dude.
I wanted to put a 30-foot up hashtag as well.
We definitely need to do that.
But so most of the guys that shoot heavier arrows, they care about the small details, right? Mm-hmm. They're not just kind of a dude going out in blue jeans in a high rise or whatever, So because of that, they also really work on tuning their bow and shooting fixed blades because it helps them in this and that, And I honestly would like to be able to shoot a fixed blade better, but I haven't been able to shoot one that well. And so it still makes sense to me to shoot a heavier arrow because that big broadhead needs some push behind it, And both my last 2 deer, I've had complete pass-throughs. The Colorado buck went complete pass-through, and just like the dude, as soon as I saw the arrow going in, I was like, that deer's dead quick because it just was bleeding quick.
He's double longer.
Yeah. And so anyway, I just wanted to mention that I feel like at 400 plus a 125 broadhead right now on these whitetail, everything I've shot lately, even hitting ribs and stuff square, is like, it's money. So, I mean, that ZMR is awesome. I think if you were worried about scapulas, or whatever, putting a fixed blade on a ZMR might be like awesome. It might be just exactly what you need.
It's a pretty hot spot, man.
Yeah.
I like we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast. I am shooting that hammer, the HMR. It's a lot heavier, and I've been pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
But
I actually may go to the hammers on a later hunt this year.
Really?
I might. I'm thinking about it. I want to talk to you about it later.
Okay. All right. And I think that I would like a flatter trajectory. And I think that that 525, 530 range is such a killer spot, man.
I like it.
It is so good because your FOC is better at that range too.
That's true.
And so depending on what you put up front, you gotta, there's a lot of factors, but that's a good spot to be, man, because your air is flying pretty quick, and it's still punching, man.
Yeah.
It's still good.
Hey, another shout out to somebody real quick since we're shouting stuff out. Our buddies at On Target Archery Shop in Canton, that's who has done our bow work. And you and I were talking just a second ago off air. My bow is still shooting tacks, and we're getting close to December, and we've put some hard work in. I've shot 4 bucks with it.
It's about time for an oil change on these bows.
You
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it is, I mean, I had to, I got some new arrows, and, I went in, and the sight, I think, gets bumped around some here and there, so we've had to kind of move sights and stuff some throughout the year, all of us. But once I get it, it is just dialed, man. It shoots tacks. So big shout out to them if you're anywhere around Canton, Texas, because I know we have a lot of Texas listeners.
It's worth
Go
the
check them
drive
out.
too.
Good dudes, man. Tell them we sent you.
Yeah. You can probably watch some Element on the TV when you're in there.
That's right. They had it on the other day when you were in there, didn't they?
They didn't even know it was coming. It wasn't like they rolled out the red carpet. It was just what they do, man. So, Not that I'm deserving, but so to go with the vector thing you're talking about, though. If you've made it this far in the podcast, congratulations. Because I feel like we've been chilling. It's a later evening podcast, so we're pretty chill, you know.
Our wives are just getting amped up downstairs.
That's right. I guarantee you. My wife will be up till 1.
We are falling asleep.
Oh, my goodness. But we are doing a giveaway for 2 dozen hammers.
Yep.
A dozen each to you. If you go on our Instagram page, and there's a picture of Tyler's arrow with a boked out, ginormous Kansas buck behind it. That means fuzzy looking, out of focus for those that don't know what that is. But go comment with the names of 2 other people that need to know about it, and make sure you follow Vector, and that'll enter you into win those one of those dozens of arrows, or however you say that.
1 dozen of those arrows. 1 dozen
of those arrows, yeah. And we'll announce that on Monday on the post. So go hit that up if you haven't. And I think that's about all the business I know to take care of.
Yeah, man. We're getting ready to go back out and kill some deer. What's about to happen?
Oh, we wanted to talk about being stupid until it's not.
Yeah.
And we might just do that for its own podcast instead. Because I feel like, how long have we been talking? We've been talking for an hour. That's enough for sure of just 2 sleepy white guys. So, guys, with that, wrap up that Thanksgiving, get your leftovers, and head out to the tree stand. Get you some hunting in before the old Christmas time starts, kind of creeping in on you too. Get you some gifts for some folks, be merry and all that stuff. Because it's good to just have a good attitude, man.
Yeah.
And I know that you and I do our best with that. Sometimes you can get down a little bit, and it's good to have people around that can kind of fill in those gaps for you. Yeah. So thank you all for some of the supportive messages that we've gotten recently. Those are real cool. Yep. We never get tired of that stuff. Anybody who tells us that they like us makes me feel good. I never get tired of getting told that.
Encouragement is nice, man.
It is.
For sure. I know we work very hard at it, and at times, like K.C. said, we can get down, and it feels like an uphill battle and this and that. And when we get encouraging words, man, it doesn't really matter what it is. It usually makes us feel like we're at least doing something that is worthwhile. Mm-hmm. So that keeps us going. If we can do something that's worthwhile, we don't have to feel good about ourselves. If you just say, hey, this helps me, and it's not even you, it's Michael Hunsucker, but thanks for having me on the podcast.
That's right.
Then that still is encouraging and helps me to keep going on this thing.
That's it. So, well, remember to pass it on, guys, and remember, this is your element.
Live in it.
As you know, the Meat Eater Live Tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a backcountry hunters and anglers pint night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.